Hello! Welcome to the Turret of Pleasure here in the Enchanted Kingdom of Hermione. I'm the Lord Chamberlain of the Enchanted Kingdom, Zipgun. Haven't talked for a while, I haven't had much to talk about. Been a little under the weather. But I did realize that I'm going to be doing some tradesies at the local Pop Emporium. And one of the things I was going to be trading in was a number of books, many of which I had bought there, and I figured I would do a little quick book review of them all. Now, most of them are, well, the ones I've selected here. I bought other books. I bought some history books and stuff, but I won't review those because whatever. These are all music, because my channel is about music for the most part, and they're just all in a bag ready to go. And I figured before I get rid of them or whatever, I'm gonna tell you what I thought of them. So I'm just gonna do this at random because they're just whatever's at the top. First one at the top. Oh, okay. Well, this was great. Found this at the thrift store in Powell River. Levon Helm's autobiography. Now this is, I don't really care about the band. The band made two really good records, I thought. Their first two. I think a lot of that is because of John Simon, and I think a lot of that was because they had a lot of good material kind of saved up. After that, they kind of got hyped to death. They did a lot of drugs. Robbie Robertson took over, and I thought they were average at best. This is a great book because, first of all, I think it's a relatively, he's not super bitter against Robbie Robertson. I mean, he's slightly bitter, but not as much as he might be. But there is a very, very large chunk of this book is devoted to his days and the band's days with Ronnie Hawkins. And that makes this book pretty much a must-read. I got it for $1. Yeah. I don't think I'll keep it because I read it 1.5 times. And the stuff that I really want to stick will probably stick. But if you are into the band, it's a must-read. And if you're into a good music bio with lots of fun stories in it, it's better than average. Let's call it that. Oh, what's next? You know what? Now, I don't even know where I got this. I think my wife, the Empress, might have found it. But I figured, what the heck? Volume 1 Chronicles. Now, this is a lot better than I thought it would be. And in fact, it's, I kind of understand the man better for having read it. He's not super pretentious, but he's Bob Dylan. And he really comes across in this book as Bob Dylan. And he jumps around from period to period, and talks about this and that, and it's a little bit scattershot, and it's a little bit long-winded in places. Again, though, now if you want wonderful anecdotes and stuff, maybe not so many in this one. If you're a Dylan nut, you need to read it. I mean, there's nothing for it, and it's rewarding if you appreciate Dylan. So there you go, biographies. What's next? This is another one. I don't know where this came from. Now I don't know anything about this fellow, David Warner, and this is useful. I wouldn't call it definitive. History of electronic music. It's called Live Wires. It looks like it says A History of Live Electronic Music Wires. I don't know who did this cover, but that's not what it is. It's Live Wires. And it's broken up into chapters such as tape recorder, circuits, turntable and record, microphone, computers. I liked it. It was a good overview. I didn't necessarily agree with all of it. I don't know what I can say about this. Again, there's a few good anecdotes about things like early analog synthesizers, and he's a professor of music at Hampshire College, Massachusetts. I was glad to read it. I don't think I need to keep it, but it was a good read. What else we got going on here? Oh boy, okay. Don't know where this came from. I'm going to say it right here and now. I'm sick and tired of reading about this guy. He had a definite talent. the Doors were a pretty good band for a pretty decent amount of time, at least 3 albums. But, success kind of killed him. And he was a hopeless alcoholic, and, death in my caucus, the world kind of thing. He was good until he wasn't. And I still think L.A. Woman's kind of a lousy album. He didn't have his heart in it anymore. This book, I could not get through it. It's terrible. The myth, the life, the legend. I don't know. I got 2 chapters into it, and I just said, enough. I've had it with this guy. So there. It might say more about me than the book, but there you go. This, I don't remember where I got this, but now this was interesting, but only that. It should have been better, I think. Peel, of course, possibly the most influential DJ in the world, ever. And you know what? Now, I read this actually a couple of months ago, and not a lot of it stuck with me. It was, it talks about a lot of bands that he likes, and about his career, but it's not riveting. It wasn't a fantastic read for me. And I like John Peel. I respected him a lot. He's dead now, of course. But there you go, John Peel. If you want to read about John Peel, it's a good book, if you're a fan. Now, this was a gift from my friends Steve, Mac, and Ernie, a man with 3 personalities, but I don't know which one I'm dealing with because they're all the same. But he brought this up from Melbourne, Australia, so this book is well-traveled. And, of course, it is the book by Budgie. Now, the funny thing was I heard, my wife wasn't supposed to tell me, but she said, oh, he's found a biography of Budgie. And I thought she meant the band Budgie. So when Budgie from Susie and this Banshee showed up, I was like, oh, that Budgie. It starts promisingly. His childhood is interesting. But really the big thing in his childhood was losing his mom early, and it really affected him. It's a very honest book. He had a terrible alcohol problem for the longest time, which he managed to shake. He was married to Susie, which I didn't know, for quite a while. And I also didn't realize he wasn't the first drummer from the Banshees. I still have the Creatures record that they did together, the double 7-inch, which I like fine. They do a real fun version of Wild Thing. But the more this goes on, the more it's for fans only. He talks a lot about some records that I'm not super familiar with. And a lot of it is rock star debauch, excess, what am I doing with my life, living in France in isolation, etc., etc. And ultimately, by the time it was over, I was like, okay, it's over, good. So I don't know if I'm going to keep it. But Banshees fans want to read it for sure. Susie fans. Susie comes off pretty good in this. I don't think they're still married. I think they got divorced. But there you go, Budgie. Yeah. Oh, and this one's pretty good too. Now, this has no cover. Punk Rock Blitzkrieg by Marky Ramone. Another great book where, now Marky had mercifully several careers, the Ramones being the more sort of major one, but he was, of course, as all adepts know, the original drummer in Richard Hell and the Voidoids, and a darn good drummer he was too for them. And of course, the real sneaky people know that he was in Dust, sort of a proto-punk metal-esque band, who I think are kind of overrated, but a lot of people really like them. I thought Marky, when he joined the Ramones, brought a real breath of fresh air to the band. I thought Road to Ruin, the drumming on that was crisper, and it just, not that I didn't have anything against Tommy's drumming, but he was just a tiny bit more refined, and I especially like the sound of his cymbals better, strange to say. At any rate, this is another book about coming up in the world, making it in the, and just developing a crippling alcohol habit, which took a lot to shake, which he did, and good for him. But it's a bit of a squirmy read because of that. His personal life is somewhat checkered. He gets fired from the Ramones, if I remember right. And so it's, as a guy who's into both the Ramones and Richard Hell and the Voidoids, I felt compelled to read it, and I'm glad I did. It's a bit of a cautionary tale, perhaps, but worth reading. Now this one, this one's kind of funny. Forward by Morrissey. Okay. Bowie, Bolin, and the Brooklyn Boy. Tony Visconti. Now, Tony Visconti, as all adepts know, is a well-known, famous record producer. More than anything, he played bass a little bit. And I think he even was part and parcel of some pop singles in the 60s. But really, he's known primarily for producing David Bowie and Mark Bolan. And he did very well by both those artists. He did a lot of other stuff. Now, I was prepared to just eat this book up. Because this is kind of in my ballywick. But he's a little bit, well, I mean, he knows where the money is, where the eyeballs are. They want to read about Bowie, and they want to read about Mark Bolan, and they don't really care about things. One of the things I thought was really funny was recently I found, for a quarter, mercifully, a Nana Mouskouri record that Tony Visconti produced. And the credits on the record suggest that it wasn't a really happy session. There's just things about it that I kind of picked up on. That record is not mentioned in this book, which I thought was maybe, because literally, if you want to say which artist that Tony Visconti produced sold the most records, the answer is Nana Mouskouri. So there's probably a bit of selective memory. Now, he's done a lot of work, so I get why they're not all in here. And for all I know, that was just a really boring session that paid the rent, where he just kind of flew in and flew out. So I don't know. It would have been nice. I've sort of teased him about this online. Apparently, he's got another book coming out. He's still going. He's got an active online presence, and I thoroughly enjoyed this book. He has had his own. He was married to Mary Hopkin, and then later he was with May Pang. So he's a bit of a rock star in his own right. And the book sort of reflects that a little bit, I suppose. I don't know. Apparently he's got another book coming out, a new one, which will work on his, later stuff. I don't know. Apparently he's still playing. He's got a website that I see every so often. So I was glad to get this. It wasn't as, I don't know. It left me wanting more. Let's just say that. Good book. I don't remember what I paid for it. It wasn't a lot. And finally, there's two more. Okay, well, I'll do whatever. This showed up thanks to the Empress Bowie by Paul Trinka. Now, I didn't know who Paul Trinka was, but apparently he is formerly the editor and later editor-in-chief of Mojo magazine. So the guy is not a slouch. Now, I'm not the biggest Bowie fan. I like some of Bowie's work, fine. Some of it I don't like at all, and I mean I really don't like some of it. And I found he was never as convincing a pop idol as others find. I found him really hit and miss. Oh, they got Blue Chimes in it, thank God. And this book has a pretty good overview of his career. There's a few things I didn't know that I learned. The Baal EP I wasn't aware of, or I was aware of it, but I didn't really know what it was. There was one. What was there that was no mention of in this book? I can't remember, some new thing on the internet. At any rate, it is, as you might expect, it's not hypercritical. But they do admit that, Never Let Me Down is not a fantastic record, which is something of an understatement in my opinion. And it raves about the good records, and I think the good records are good. They think they're better than good. I find that Bowie, in my experience, is never good without a real foil. So he needed a Gus Dudgeon, or he needed a Brian Eno, or an Iggy Pop, or a Mick Ronson, or a Tony Visconti to really operate at maximum creativity. Cocaine didn't make him better, and like a lot of these guys, he did a lot of cocaine. So I thought it was very well written. Trink is a very good writer. He's obviously researched this pretty hard. If you're looking for a Bowie bio, I would say it's probably as good as any out there. So, and this is coming from a guy who's I'm not a Bowie junkie. So, for what that is worth, that is my pronouncement on that. And finally, and this one was cool. I was glad to find this. Found this at the Music Emporium that I'm going to take it back to. Jorma Kaukonen, we all know him from the Jefferson Airplane, and more recently Hot Tuna. I'm a big Hot Tuna fan. I'm not so much of an Airplane fan. This is one of those cool books. It comes with a CD. 5 songs, acoustic, live, not released anywhere previously. So if you're a big fan, you want this. I guess it won't matter too much when I tell you that the CD is actually kind of lousy. There's one song on it where he's really out of tune. But this is a good book. Again, what we have here is a character from the 60s. Now, he did the 60s hard. Finnish stock, living in San Francisco. And it's a good document of the rise of the airplane. And from his viewpoint, and he was, very naive kid, back in the day. And so you get, he wasn't worldly. And there's great things like when he talks about Grunt Records being formed, he was like, oh, it's just all a bunch of crap. It just costs us a bunch of money. And, stuff like that, which I think is a good, I like to read that perspective. He had a partner of many years with whom he got obsessed with speed skating, and they would go to Europe and go speed skating. And he's a really interesting guitar player. He's probably as good an acoustic player as he is electric, even though the Airplane, he didn't do a lot of acoustic. And Hot Tuna, of course, was a blues band, essentially. Electric blues, of course, and their best record, Burgers, is a very good record. So, I liked reading this book. Again, though, it becomes a sort of a litany of heroin addiction and, rock and roll decrepitude. And there's a thing about when the Jefferson Airplane reforms to do their record, the horrible, horrible comeback record, which he doesn't like at all, and I can see why. It was just all a big money grab. And he still lives back in the East, and he's built a little music community around where he lives, and he's all over the internet, of course. And he seems like a nice guy. I'd love to go and have a beer with him. He still plays. And this book I liked it because it told me a lot more about him that I already knew, and I'm a fan. I got most of the Hot Tuna records, and I've got, I think, all of his solo records, so I guess that makes me a fan. And it was nice that he got to write a book before he died, which is something a lot of these guys, I'd like to say them, like, it's too bad Bowie didn't write a book, his autobiography. I read Elton John's autobiography recently, and Elton John, I like Elton John, but it's a good book because he's honest, and you're hearing it from him, and he has some great insights that only he would know, like talking about being in Long John Baldry's band. A lot of these books, I'm really into the backstories, and so it's nice when they're autobiographies because the backstory is usually more interesting, more detailed, and usually more truthful, because most other people don't know the backstory. So there you go. I don't know how many that was. That's the whole whack. And I'm gonna go and see if I can find some more. And I like finding books on musicians. I found one today. Believe it or not, I found Rita McNeil's autobiography, and I'll bet that's an interesting book. And I'm gonna read that, because I've been reading nothing but Anthony Beevor war books, and they're kind of bummers. Because, once you read about Stalingrad and then you move on to the Battle for Berlin. It's like, holy smoke, I need something light. So that's what I do with my music books. And there you go. I figured I'd document these before they disappeared. So thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the thing. And even though there are weeks-long gaps between videos, I tend to make them in bunches and then I spread them out. So I'll try to do that. I've had some great feedback from some friends. That was actually very touching, some of it. So thanks for all that. I hear through the grapevine that some people just like to watch these just to relax from stressful jobs. And if I can make that happen for you, well, then I'm delighted. So thanks for watching, everybody. And in these difficult times, we got to keep laughing and looking after each other as best we can. So yeah, on that note, I'll say adios, and I'll come up with something else to talk about. And we'll see you soon. Take it easy.